All right. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to another indie author interview. So, I am here today with Sarah James, who is the author of Seeds of Sorrow, as well as Branches of Betrayal, which comes out soon. So, we are so excited to talk today. I think you're probably the first, mainly spicy author that I've spoken to. So, I'm super
Really?
excited. Yeah, I think
Oh,
everything else has been like fantasy, like romantasy. So, this is super cool. Um, so, thank you so much for taking time to join me today.
thank you
Um,
for having me.
you're welcome. So let's go ahead and just get right into it. So tell us a
Go.
little bit about kind of what made you want to be an author and what your path to publication was.
So I have written ever since I was really, really young. It's always been my thing. I always loved reading. I always loved writing. I always wrote way above like my grade level at
Mhm.
school. So it was always what I knew I wanted to do. And so I publish under my own name, which is Kobe Bentley, and then I publish dark, spicy
Mhm.
things under Sarah James. So I had published originally a novella under Kobe Bentley back in December 2020, and it was fun. I liked it. I self-published because honestly, getting an agent is really, really scary.
Mhm.
But for my first novel, which I wrote under Kobe Bentley too, I did query and I did want an agent, but it is so destroying when you get rejections or you don't get answers. And I eventually got to the point and I'm like, nope, I'm done with this. I can do this on my own. So I did. And then I was like, I really like, I love spicy and dark romance. Promises and Pomegranates was like probably my first dark romance, and I loved it. I don't know why I loved it because I'm like, this can't be normal. Like,
I love it
I
too.
shouldn't be into this.
We always do that. We always I was asking for dark romance recommendations. So I was like, all right, I need to get away from the fantasy. And people were giving me recommendations and I was like, okay, like my only trigger is, I only have like one trigger. And I was like, is that weird? And they're like, no. And I'm like, oh great then. Like
You know, right?
weird.
That is definitely me too, because I was like, I was a romance reader. No, not even romance, actually. I was a fantasy reader, right? Like, give me anything witchy that speaks to my soul. And then when I started like my Bookstagram account, which was like when COVID hit, I was
Mhm.
like, okay, let me try a romance or two. And I read some, and I'm like, yeah, I could get down with this. And then I read Promises and Pomegranates because I was friends with Emily McIntyre. I read all her books. I did an interview with her. Um,
um,
because I blog too, so I did an interview with her, and so I knew about Sav, and I'm like, okay, let me try this book, and I loved it, and I'm like,
so cool.
yeah, I was like, there's something wrong with me, but I'm into it. So I knew that I wanted to write something. I wanted to do a Hades and Persephone. I wanted it to be dark, but also like I'm a sucker for representation in books. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what if I make this queer? Because everything's better when it's queer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started writing it, and then I was like, my family can't know about this. I was like, because this is getting dark and this is getting like smutty real fast. I was like, my family cannot know about this. So I decided to do it under a pen name. I was like, I got this. So
Mhm.
Sarah is my middle name legally, and James is my father's
Oh,
middle name.
that's
And
cool.
he always really loves it because he doesn't like use his middle name for anything. And I always really loved the name Sarah, so I'm like,
That's
I'm gonna do this. I like this. Um, but I caved right before publication because I couldn't tell anyone apart from my friends. But I was getting things delivered to my house. And I'm like, how am I gonna do this?
Mhm.
Because I need to get stuff delivered as Sarah James. And I caved and I told my mom. And I'm like, okay, listen. I was like, I know I'm your baby daughter because I'm the youngest out of five kids.
Oh,
I
wow.
was like, I know I'm an adult, but even I'm like, don't look at me. But here's what I'm writing. And my mom was like super down with it. She was so excited. She's like, you write to the market, you write to what you can make money as, like that's fine. And then she told my dad.
Oh,
And I'm like,
I wish you didn't do that.
yeah, right. And I was so embarrassed. And I was fully expecting my dad to be like, I can't look at you the same
Mm,
because like you're my daughter. No, no, my dad had the completely opposite, but probably more embarrassing reaction because he was super into it. He was like, you write to the market, you make that money however you need to make money. Um, Send me pictures of your books. So I was like, Okay. He sent them to my aunts and was like, hey, Kobe's published it under this name now, so you should go read this. One of my aunts bought the book. I started reading it, and I'm like,
that's
okay.
funny.
And then he started giving the books to people he works with.
Oh,
So now everybody
Dad,
in my
come on.
life,
I love your support, but
right?
that's so funny. That's
So I went from
totally
being like
something my dad
totally
would
secret.
do.
Yeah, I
Totally.
went from being totally secret pen name, like this is going to be my thing, my alter ego, to everyone knowing anyway. So I just look completely psychotic in real life because I'm like, I have an alter ego, and I write under this alter ego, but everybody knows about it.
I kind of love that. I think that that's like the cool thing about pen names is like that it is your alter ego. And so it's like, I mean, a lot of the time when people like put themselves as characters in books, right? Like it's like what they
Yeah,
wish that they could be, or like, I mean, I think dark romance is just, I literally never knew what dark romance was until Haunting Adeline. I got to be honest, that was
well,
I read. I mean, now that I've read that, I could probably read anything. But I didn't even know that was a genre, and it's I don't know, it feel like the taboo, like I think of just being, you know, like, oh, I'm not supposed to read this. Like that's even part of the chase and start of the game.
right? It's so much fun because you're like, this is so messed up. So
Mm,
I always say that like my favorite trope is enemies to lovers, but with a knife to the throat moment, right? Like I'm super into that. I don't know why. I think it makes like every fantasy book really, really good. But
mhm.
in dark romance, it adds that little
It
something,
does.
something, right?
Yeah.
So when I was starting reading dark romance, I was like, nope. And obviously I started with Promises and Pomegranates, so that also has like blood play, right? And I'm like, shouldn't be hot. Shouldn't be hot.
So
Really, really, really
So like, I mean, I think it's really cool. Like I said, you're the first like dark romance, like that I've interviewed. So I wonder how like the writing process differs from fantasy, right? Because like you have to make a whole world, you have to do this and that. But this is, to an extent, it's in our world, right? And but then there's some stuff, that you have to create. So how do you like write? Like what's your process like to write a book like this?
so it's actually really difficult and that sounds so stupid because like I can't write fantasy and I'm trying really, really hard under like my other name. Uh but it's so complicated. So when I started writing dark romance, I was like, this is gonna be easy. Well, not like easy, but easy compared to fantasy, right? But it's not because you're writing in the real world. So you have to be super careful with what you're writing because everyone's always going to be like, that's not accurate and
Right.
that's not right. And my biggest thing is I usually don't write places. I
Mm,
usually create my own world, even if it's in the real world, because I don't want anyone coming for me like, that's not what this place is like, and that's not what that looks like, because I don't know. I live in Scotland, and like my books are either written in England or in America. But when I was writing Seeds of Sorrow, it wasn't supposed to be Latinx. It was just like a regular book, white characters, but something was missing for me, and I was like, I can't do this. Something's not flowing with the book. And I really love like a nickname in a book.
mhm.
So I was like, I really want it. And my best friend is Mexican, and she's like Tex-Mex, and her husband is like Mexico Mexican, so he like speaks Spanish and stuff. And I was like, I don't think I want a Spanish nickname, but I feel like I can't just use the Spanish nickname without like a character being Hispanic or Latinx or something. So my best friend is like, write it, write the characters that you want to write, and I was like really, really scared because
Mm,
obviously in the bookish world, like discourse is a thing. I was
Mhm.
like, I don't want to offend anyone. She's like, you won't. She's like, just write it. She's like, we will get like sensitivity readers. We will get Spanish speakers. Any Spanish that you need, you can ask my husband. Um, and so I started writing that, but it completely changed the writing process again because it meant that I was having to learn about a whole other culture. I was having to learn little bits of another language, and although I never specify in the book, it's very much based in like San Antonio, Texas, and
Mhm.
that kind of area because that's where my best friend lives. So like the world market they go to, like the Mexican market,
Mhm.
is somewhere that my best friend has been. And like I looked up pictures and my Pinterest board, like people will see like my Pinterest is like public so they can go see that. I have like all these different aspects and stuff, but it did make it like so much more complicated because I was constantly researching and then I had to find sensitivity readers
Mhm.
and Spanish readers and Latinx readers because you need all these different people
Right.
to like go through your book.
And I totally like so I would just came back from a cruise and we went to Mexico and I was talking to somebody at work and they're from um I think it's Ecuador. And
Hmm.
then there was someone else that I was talking to, and she's from a different Spanish. She's from Dominican, and then somebody else was from Puerto Rico. And I was telling them like, we went to a show, a lucha libre show, and they had these words that you are supposed to say, and the words mean something different. And because I was telling them what it was, and they were just like, "Why would you say that?" Like at that, and I was like, "I don't know." They told me to say it, and then they were like, "Oh, because Mexico and Ecuador and Puerto Rico and Dominican all have different dialects and their
Yeah,
words are different things." So, I think I think that's very cool though to like have to like learn about like I love language and traveling, so I think that's really cool that went through. I mean, you really did and covered all your bases, it sounds like, and used
I
inspiration from
tried.
no, to make
Yeah.
sure, that it was, culturally, accurate.
Yeah, I certainly tried, and like I made sure that people knew. So at the beginning of the book, I have a whole thing about this has had sensitivity readers. Like, please don't be mad at me. And then the same at the back of the book, because like as I say, my big thing is representation. And every book that I write, I try to have some sort of rep, whether it's queer, whether it is like diversity. I try and write something. And so when I was writing this, I was really, really scared of people coming for me. But I also was like, we want more representation.
Right.
And so you have these like two different parts where people are like, white authors shouldn't be writing diverse characters, but then we want more diversity in literature. And I totally I hype up any diverse author I can. Like that's
Yep.
my I want to support them, but it doesn't mean I want to stop writing so that other people can also write.
Mhm.
Um, so I want to be super inclusive and write characters that don't look like me and don't sound like me and aren't like me because that's the way the real world is. And
Mhm.
I was super aware of that when I was writing because I'm like, I don't want this character to act anything like me because they wouldn't, but I
Mhm.
also want to be super aware of their culture and who they are as people. And like, if Hadina was to walk up to me, I want to know every single thing about her. I want to know what kind of language she would use. And I don't know if it's something that like readers will have picked up on yet, but they will throughout the other books. But each of the Ada sisters have different level of Spanish speaking, and it's very, very deliberate because they had a mom and a dad when they were younger, and sadly the mom passes away. So Zelina, Zelly, got full Spanish speaking. Her parents always spoke in Spanish. Hadina is the middle child, so she got a little bit, but she got more watered down. And Hadina is also super ambitious. So she was in schools and law school and studying. So she surrounded herself with both worlds. And then Piper, her baby sister, speaks Spanglish. She doesn't really speak any Spanish, and there's a little bit of a spoiler, but when it comes to her book, that's something that like is going to go into depth about because she
Oh,
really struggles.
Well, so you're writing books about each sister.
Yes.
Ooh, I didn't know what Branch
Yeah.
was about. So, ooh, that's
Oh
exciting.
yeah, so we're getting a series. So you don't know what stuff's coming next. Branches of Betrayal is obviously like a story continuation of Seeds of Sorrow. So it's still with Hadina and Peyton, but you'll get more of the other characters too. And then yeah, we're definitely getting two more books.
Oh, I love that.
One for Zelly and one for Piper. And I already have their stories planned. I have their partners planned. I
Mhm.
know what's happening and I'm super excited.
So I think what would be really cool that maybe we gotta start like a Kickstarter or something because you don't have audiobooks, right?
Yeah, they're
I think that
super,
would
super
be
expensive.
so cool to do a Kickstarter because you can get three different, people, narrators who are experienced with different levels of Spanish. So that would be like really cool to kind of like illustrate that too.
Yeah,
Well, okay, we need to talk about that. Um,
yeah.
we kind of talked about what you enjoy most about writing dark romance, so we can skip over that question. But this is a great one for me because obviously I have ADHD. So what do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused? What keeps you on task when you're writing your scenes?
So, I probably have undiagnosed ADHD too because I suck. Like, I can be super organized and like
Oh
super
yeah, it's
OCD with
either one or
things.
the other.
Yeah, right. So, as part of my anxiety, I have like super bad OCD about certain things. So I could be really, really organized, but when it comes to writing deadlines, not a chance. I am a last minute person. So trying to create a writing schedule is really hard. But for me, it is I need to have a playlist for every book. And that's probably the first thing I do before I write is I create a playlist so that I can get all the vibes when I'm writing. And the other thing is probably I need to have something planned. So I'm totally a pantser. I don't plot. I have a rough idea of my plot, but I can't sit and write everything down. But I need to have like, okay, here's what this next scene's gonna be. And I'll either talk it out with my best friend, who's also my critique partner because she's an author too, or I'll be like, I need you to write with me. So I need you to like we either do like a sprint room or we'll be on FaceTime or something, but I'm like, I need you to help me focus because I can't do it. So if you see me on my phone, yell at me. If you see me pick up a book, yell at me. Or if you don't hear my keys clacking, yell at me. In fact, it's something that like I type really, really fast because I used to be a customer service manager. Um, so her husband always laughs because he's like, it sounds like bullets when I'm writing because it's so fast. And it's funny because it's only like that when I'm writing dark romance. So it feels really fitting because I just like I'm in the zone.
Mhm. Cool, cool. And so, I think that it's actually I literally think that probably I don't want to say a third, but I mean at least maybe 5 or 6 authors I've spoken to have ADHD. So I think that that makes me feel seen because my problem with trying to write my book, so my book that I put it down because I was just like, I can't do it. Like I know where I need to go. But mine's also, obviously got Greek mythology in it because that's my favorite thing in the world. Um,
Mhm.
but it's like I am a mental health counselor as well, so I kind of talk to a lot of clients and myself, about kind of trying to harness your ADHD, right? Because like you're saying that like yes, like it can it's your kryptonite. That was my
Yep,
next question, probably is staying on task and things like that. But at the same time, like yeah, I just feel like there's so much creativity and like just beauty that comes out of, having ADHD. So it's really it makes me feel seen that I'm like, okay, like just because I have ADHD doesn't mean I can't write a book. Like maybe I'm telling
for
myself
sure.
that, but it doesn't mean that I can't. So that's cool.
Yep. I think that is definitely it. And like when we're talking about kryptonite, like self doubt, imposter syndrome is definitely where it's at because I wrote Seeds of Sorrow and people really, really enjoyed it. And I was really taken aback by that because I was
Hmm.
like, little old me, nobody's going to read this
Yeah,
book.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so writing Branches of Betrayal, it's totally shifted things because I'm like, I need to write the perfect accompaniment to this book. Like that ended on a
A lot of brush
cliffhanger. People want
the
to
second.
know. Yeah. So imposter syndrome is a thing, and then when you couple that with ADHD, it's super hard. And because like I don't have a diagnosis because I don't know if it's the same in America, but in the UK it's really, really hard to get diagnosed. But currently it's really hard to get into a doctor's appointment.
No,
So
totally. And I think, and
yeah,
unfortunately for women, I mean, I wasn't diagnosed till 28. I'm turning 30 next month. So I dealt without knowing I had
yeah,
ADHD for 20 years of my life, because I'm not hyperactive. Like I
yeah,
bounce off the walls. That's not what I do, So I think like mental health is just, I think that that's like a really great piece too, that we kind of look at, in books as well, right?
yeah,
Is having that mental health piece. Um, so I totally get where you're coming from. And it stinks because I mean, medication can help some people. I'm not a proponent of medication, but I have to take it because I need to, be able to function. But, just even knowing like, oh yeah, like I have ADHD, like I didn't even think about it until I saw TikTok and saw all
yeah.
of the ADHD and like ADHD and stuff. I was like, that's me. Like that's literally me. Like I can diagnose myself, sure, but like it's crazy. It's crazy how
Yeah, it is so much. It's so difficult, and it's hard when you have to self-diagnose
right.
because it makes
Not
you
fair.
feel, yeah, and it makes you feel sort of crazy
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, I'm trying to claim this thing. When no, you're just trying to understand yourself more. Because it was the same like with my anxiety and depression. Like I'm super open about my mental health. But I was 17 by the time I got diagnosed with both of them, despite having gone to the doctor since I was like 12, and it was like I had been through like losing grandparents and really traumatic events in my life and stuff, and they still didn't want to diagnose me. So the first time that I got meds to try and help, I was 17 and at college, and even then, like I am now, I'll be 24 in August, and trying to get them to change meds and stuff is really, really difficult. And so it does feel like you have to like self-diagnose to an extent and find out what you want to know, which is why I also try and write about it in books because I'm like, this is what we go through.
Right.
Even if I'm not like specifically like this character has this, this, and this.
Right.
Like I
It's
want people to be
safe
able
to
to read
think.
it and be like, yeah, okay, I get that. They're like me. Because that's exactly what you have to do in life. You totally, in fact, I'll tell you this since we're interviewing at the right time. Banshees of Betrayal, we actually delve a little deeper into Hadina's mental health because with the cliffhanger of what happens
The
in season
trauma.
4, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's super traumatic. I cried and I made my best friend cry because she has for all intents and purposes, lost the love of her life at the end of book 1, and she doesn't know how to get her back. She doesn't know what to do, and for the first time in Hadina's life, she feels really lost. Like she doesn't know what to do, and she's always been the strong one, the one who can do everything for everybody else. And she let herself feel, she let herself love, and it's ended badly, and she blames herself, and so she hits rock bottom. She goes through some really, really hard stuff. And as much as it was really hard to write, it was so much fun because I know people who are like Hadina and they
Yeah.
have used coping mechanisms that she does. And I just thought it was really, really important to include that in the book.
Well, I love that you're expanding on that because I think, for women in general. But then, you also, like you said, you add like the sapphic piece and, there's a whole nother level of culture, in that and gender roles and all that sort of stuff and having to be the one to take care of everything and not being like really looking at yourself and saying, what do I need? So I really can't wait to see her delve into that. Um, so we'll go into talking about Seeds of Sorrow, just in case anybody hasn't read this amazing, wonderful book, which I had to buy the hardcover because I was like, holy crap, look at this. Like, I just can't. It's just so beautiful. Um, I literally, so I read I read it on Kindle Unlimited. So I like before I interview an author, I always want to get at least their first book just so I have a
Yeah.
copy. But this has not been read, and I love that because you can like hear like when you open it, and it's just so cool. Um,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. So I know that I don't even know like when I told you, but I described this book as haunting Adeline but sapphic. So that's how I would describe the book. But if you had to describe it in a sentence, how would you describe it?
Uh, so I actually use it as my tagline for a lot of stuff that I'm doing promo, but it's usually like, spicy, sinful, and utterly. Oh my god, what is it?
Like, what's the last word? Is it on there?
Yeah. Oh my god. Sinful, spicy, and utterly. It's like utterly spectacular or something like that. But that's kind of what it feels like. It feels like something that's spicy and it's super sinful because
Mhm.
it's we're not shying away from anything within Seeds of
Well,
Sorrow.
never look at a paintbrush the same way again after you read this book.
I'm not gonna lie, when I was writing this, like that scene, I was like, because it was just supposed to be a normal spicy scene, right? Like it wasn't
Yeah,
supposed to have anything,
it was
anything special.
opportunistic. Okay, it worked.
Yeah, and I was like, could I? Should I? And I was speaking to one of my friends, and I'm like, okay, hear me out. We insert a lot when we're reading dark romance, right? There's a lot of things that goes up a
Yeah,
coochie. Would a paintbrush work the same?
so
Would that hurt? Like, what do we think? And so my friend was like, I'd be down for that. Like, I feel like that would be fun to read. I was like, okay, let me write it first, and then we'll see. So I wrote it, and I said to her, she was like, oh, I'm like, okay, that was good. And then I sent it to my best friend, and she was also into it. I was like, you know something? I'm keeping it. I like it. It's out there. I haven't read it in the book before,
I love
so
that.
we're going with that.
That's so funny. Taboo, right? Taboo. Um, so who is your favorite character to write and why was that person your favorite? I know this is the hardest question because I'm asking you to choose one of your children, but
Oh my,
I can tell you my favorite character to read was
yes,
Hadina, but I could imagine your favorite character to write. Like if I were writing the book, I would say it was Peyton because I just love how challenging she is.
yeah,
Like
right.
love
It's so funny
love her
because
attitude.
yeah, that's the thing. Because I was really aware that I wanted Peyton to not have an attitude change, but for Hadina to like coax it out for.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like with a lot of women, we are told that we have to be polite and be quiet. And so, like, I'm Scottish, right? So I feel like that's really, really apparent with Scottish women as well, because we have a really strong accent. And so it's be polite, be calm, be nice. But we have a really strong accent, we have attitude. And so I wanted that for Peyton. So
Mm-hmm.
she's super fun to write, but I think I'm gonna go with Zelly. Because she's really hard to write. And she's so mean.
So that's
But I
kind
love
of you're going into the next question, which is amazing. Because I love how it's this interview is just flowing. So the most challenging character was probably Zelly. And
yeah.
what would that be?
Because she's really mean, but obviously like a lot of readers once you get to like know how to understand, there's obviously something. There's something in there making her like that.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what it was originally. I do now, but I'm I'm quite timid. Like I might think and be angry and like have words and stuff, but I can never say it to anyone whereas Zelly does. Like she's gonna cuss you out, she's gonna say whatever she thinks of you, and that intimidates me. Because I wanna be that level of strong, but I'm definitely not. But I'm also not mean. And
Right.
Zelly is. Like that woman knows what she can do with words. She's not afraid to throw hands. She's not afraid to hurt anyone's feelings. And so try to get into that mindset, like say whatever, because that's just who she is.
I love that. And I think maybe one of her lines is one of your favorites but I don't know. There's just so many quotable lines in this book. Is there any favorite part or favorite quote? Also, honestly, I have never even opened this book and I just opened it and I was like, that's just beautiful. Like that
Right, yeah.
I
I think
literally have
my
not opened it because I don't like cracking the spine and I have it like displayed because I love it. So I just anyway. See, we're ADHD. So favorite line from the book.
favorite line, I think, is probably, uh, "If I'm your temptress, let me lure you, because you've already ruined me for everyone else anyway." Because that when I was writing it made me cry. Like, it
I
gave me,
just
like,
got
all the
chills. I
chills.
just got chills.
Yeah. But it made me like, 'cause I was like, yeah, that's how it feels to love someone, even if you're not like they haven't said I love you to each other by that point, and they haven't been like super lovey-dovey, but that's their declaration right there. She's like, take me as I am, like you've done this to me, you've opened me up to the rest of the world, so you've ruined me and I'm yours. And it made me so emotional writing it.
That's beautiful. And so the last question of this section, so sometimes when people write, they do imagine their characters as people or actors or, in a certain way with certain features. So is there anybody that you have in mind for Peyton and or Hadina as far as actors, actresses?
Not really actors and actresses. If you look at like my Pinterest, there's like a model that I've picked for each character, and they are very much the lived embodiment of the characters. But one of my readers in my street team, Corvina's Cloud, she's great when it comes to stuff like this, and she's a really big sapphic reader. So she actually, when she makes edits and stuff, or she's on Instagram, she'll send me reels and she's like, this person, like, this would be Zelly, or this would be Hadina. And I'm like, wow, yeah, would. So it's
Mhm.
always really interesting to see, like, other people's, like, who
I
they
love
would
that.
cast.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think about I don't know, I feel like because Hadina is like so like she's like demure and
Oh,
and she's a lawyer she's like I feel like she's just like that so I don't even know trying to think of a character or an actress. I'm gonna have to do some thinking on that. Peyton I don't have any ideas for, but Hadina I don't know, I just felt like super connected to Hadina. I don't know, maybe I think that that's kind of I did an edit with tropes for me and my husband and Touch Him and is one of
yeah,
those because I'm just incredibly protective over my husband. I don't know why. I'm literally just do not mess with him. If you mess with him, you mess with me. And
yeah,
so I think that that's why I related to Hidina so much is because I'm like, I will literally rip your head off if you're going. Yesterday, I went out with one of my friends and we're both married, but obviously, men, when you're going to a bar, do
yeah,
not on your ring finger. I look on people's ring fingers, but he was starting to talk to her and he was trying to buy her a drink and she's like, "No, I don't want one." And I turned to her and I said, if he kept talking to you because he walked away. I was like, if he kept talking to you, I would have been like, "She's married, thanks."
yeah,
That's just my attitude. So I think that that's probably I probably related. Michael's my husband. He we have different tropes. I mean, he's funny. He's like, I have a mommy kink because you take care of me and you tell me what to do, blah blah blah. I'm the
yeah.
dominant one in the relationship, which is funny. So yeah, definitely feel Hadina. But I'll have to do some thinking about who I would fan cast. But I mean, obviously, there's lovely models and ladies in these as well. So
Yeah.
you know, we have some that's so pretty. Oh, I love the
That
feet.
is gorgeous, right? So my best friend is actually the cover designer and formatter for it. Yeah, so
This is just stunning. This is
yeah, so she blew it out of the water because I had bought the paperback cover, which I also really, really love.
I like
But
it, but I love
yeah, yeah, right. But I was like, I need my best friend to have part of this because she's been there from the start. I was like, would you be interested in making the hardcover? She's like, yeah. She's like, just give me, and she did it so quickly, and it was perfect. And so obviously she did the paperback and hardcover for Branches of Betrayal, because I got permission from my original designer, and I'm like, it's just easier if she does them all. And so she was fine with that, and I sobbed when she sent me Branches of Betrayal because I was not expecting that. I didn't expect it to match so perfectly, and I love them. I can't wait to hold it and have them next to each other.
Oh, we're going to go on to the final part of the interview, which are just some fun questions, things that people that like me, readers that I would want to know. And then I have a couple questions that I got from readers. So let me see. So the first question is, what do you like to do when you're not writing other than reading? Because we all know that you obviously
Yeah. Uh, so I am an editor. So like that's my job, but I also really enjoy that. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like I really enjoy doing that. Uh, Designing, I love like making things, but I'm also super arty. So I love painting, I love drawing, and what else? Photography. I do not know a single thing that I'm doing, but I love going out. Like I recently went maybe a couple of weeks ago to like a fairy trail, which
Oh,
is like a woodland area where I stay. Uh, but there's like a lot of fairy houses, and it's like steeped in like history and mythology and stuff, which is really fun because like it's Scotland. I wasn't expecting that. So I really like going places like that and just taking pictures of natures because I'm obsessed with flowers and trees, as you can see from my book covers.
that's awesome. So photography, and editing and just creativity, it sounds like a lot of
Yeah,
creative juices you got.
very much so.
So this is my favorite question ever because I've been getting some amazing recommendations. So I am gonna write them down. So if you hear me typing, it's because I need to remember. So some books or authors that you would recommend that you love yourself, indie or otherwise.
Okay. Ah,
We have
this is
pomegranates, so we have that one.
yeah.
Which
So we
I,
have that.
I hear both those, and then the other like dystopian one. Have you read that?
No.
She has like a dystopian one. I just read it like the other day because I was in a reading slump and I was reading books by authors
Ooh,
that I liked. Let me see if I can find it. Sav Arm, which she's just like amazing.
she is. She's so
Cool.
cool.
She's like a cool person. Um, it was the King's Trace Antiheroes, Sweet Surrender, Sweet Sacrifice is the third one, and then Sweet Solitude.
Ooh, I will
Mhm.
definitely read those. I will add them to my
Honestly,
list.
she has a new series
Uh,
coming out, Monsters Within, that comes out next year, so we gotta wait.
so excited. So V Domino is my best friend, fellow author. So anything she writes is amazing. But her most recent book, Mi Deseo, which means my desire in Spanish. So it has like super good Mexican rep in it as well. What I choose, super spicy, super dark, amazing. My favorite book in the world, which I know most people have read anyway, is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston.
Mhm.
I love that book more than life. I reread it like once a month
Did you see
because
the
I'm that
movie?
psychotic. Yeah, yeah,
The movie was absolutely what my husband watched it and he was like, I love this movie. I was like, it's a book, so you can read it.
yeah,
Um,
right.
the One Last Stop, also by Casey McQuiston.
Yes,
Then I got approved for an arc of the pairing, and I am so excited to read the pairing. So I hope it's good.
I'm so jealous. I need it.
I
Like
know.
Casey McQuiston is my obsession in life. I absolutely love them. I love everything that they write. But Red, White, and Royal Blue is just
Yeah.
everything to me.
And that's Enemies to Lovers, which is just great.
Right? It's so good. What else? So I recently edited a book by a client called RNA. It's her like author name, and it's called Poa. And it's like a spicy white choose, but based on Edgar Allan Poe poems. And it is amazing. It's so good. I was so excited to edit it because I was like,
Really cool.
yeah, I was like, I get to read that, like me. Um, so that was amazing. I'm looking at like my shelves, because I have
Right,
like,
right. That's what I do. I'm just like, what do
yeah,
I have so many books on my shelf and it's just really cool because I I have interviewed every person that I have on the shelf, which is or will be. It's really cool.
That's amazing. I love that. That's like gold.
Yeah, I
My
have
aim
a
is to
whole
do
indie author shelf, and then I have a shelf of just like signed books that, because I used to be into trad a lot. I mean, I still read trad, but
yeah.
I have all those, and then it's just amazing. Like I have interviewed like, quite a few authors, so that's really cool.
I'm like looking through my Goodreads for like recommend. Oh, that's it. Kristen Granata. Anything she writes, so she writes like just romance books, but anything she writes is amazing. And she's like slowly started putting more and more spice in her books with everyone that she publishes. And so she's doing like a hockey romance series right now. But like one of them was just like MF, the next one was MFM, Why Choose. The next one was MF, but like biker and hockey. And oh, they're just amazing. Everything she writes is amazing. And then I will give you like one last check. Let me see. Um, so you like fantasy as well.
Oh,
So yeah. So since you like fantasy, I have another author friend and her book's amazing. Elle Backenstow, and she wrote of Curses and Beauty,
of course,
and it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling,
love it.
right? And I said one more,
Got
but
it.
like I have to add another one. Jessica Willis.
Just
She writes like high fantasy books, but they're like so good.
what is the number one that you would recommend by her?
Um, oh my God, what's it called? I swear, like I just have a total
That's
mind blank whenever
okay.
anyone asks me. It's like of betrayal and something, I think. It's like a red cover, like of betrayal and deceit, or is that the sequel?
Jessica
Willis.
Wallace.
Willis. So WILLAS. No, IS. Willis. That spell.
Jessica Willis. Let's see.
That really annoy me. Like I just have a total mind blank.
Shadow Crusade is one that comes up first.
So that's like one of her earliest series, but I think her most recent one was phenomenal. Let me see if it's on my Goodreads.
A Delicate Betrayal.
That one.
That one.
Yes.
Perfect.
It was so good. Like all her writing is amazing, but that one totally blew me away.
And then you said Kristen
Granata, so with the G.
Carnata. Okay.
My favorite one by her is called Someone You Love. Which is just like a cutesy, like small town, like grumpy sunshine. But the main character, like our main male character, is like Jason Momoa. A mix between
Ooh.
Jason Momoa and Jax from Sons of Anarchy, which is my two like biggest crushes in life.
Someone You Love. You said that, right?
Yeah,
Okay. And then the other one, RN.
RNA, and it's called POA, so POA, because
Perfect.
that was just so good.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So I have some great recommendations because I need some books. And so we kind of talked a lot about, things that you struggled with like imposter syndrome, self-doubt, those sort of things. Is there any other advice that you would give to an aspiring author?
Um, it sounds really, really simple, right? But just write. It doesn't matter whether you're writing a book, whether you're writing a page, a diary, whatever. Like, write and just write for you. Because I think it's when we start to put pressure on ourselves that it becomes this whole big chaotic mess. And so one of my friends always said, like, write forever, edit never, like, because we
Mm.
all did NaNoWriMo together, and that was her thing. It was like, get your first draft out, edit it later. Just get the words out. And I think that's really important. I know that some people, their brain doesn't work like that, but I think trying to train your brain to make it work like that is what really does help because you just want words on a page. You can't edit a blank page. but you can edit like 500 words, you know? Just try and write whenever you can. And again, I'm not a write every day, write 2,000 words every day kind of person. I wish I was, because I think that's brilliant. But my brain doesn't work like that. I'm gonna write like 5,000 words in one day and then not write for 2 weeks because then my brain can't get into it again. So just write what you can, when you can, and also write it in like a note on your phone
Mm-hmm.
or a Word doc or a notebook if you have it at hand. I have so many half-filled notebooks, which I think is an author thing. I think it's a reader thing. Uh, but I have like scenes from different books and quotes that I want to include in a book, and maybe that would be a good book title. But all these things are still writing, and they're like what push you to get somewhere.
That's awesome. And I think that that's like, I think I'm gonna do NaNoWriMo this year because I think that that'll keep me like very structured to like
Yeah,
finish the book. Um, because like, I mean, authors like yourself, like in indie authors have just like inspired me to be like, you know what, like even like I can like write for myself, like you said,
yeah,
and as long as I enjoy it, but also just learning so much about like the different, element. There's so many different elements that go into being an indie author. Like you're lucky you're
it
an
is.
editor, so you don't have to pay one, but it's like, wow, like there's so much. Um, do you play music while you write? If
I
so,
do.
with words, without words, or any specific songs that remind you of Seeds of Sorrow?
It has to be with words for me. Like I love like a little instrumental moment. Uh and sometimes if I'm like writing and I need to be in the zone and not be distracted at all, I'll play like I don't know if it's like lo-fi, like they
Mhm.
study music.
Yes,
But
yes.
for me,
Like the
it
binaural.
has to be yeah, it has to be a playlist and it has to have words because I can take one line of a song and turn it into a whole book.
Mm.
Which is sort of what happened with Seeds of Sorrow. I had listened to a couple of songs, and in my original notebook, somewhere in my mess of a bedroom, there is like 3 pages, and it's scenes according to like a lyric from a song. But my songs that I associate with Seeds of Sorrow is Lightning by Meryl, because I don't know, I think if you listen to it, it gives you chills. Like
Mm.
it's just so atmospheric. I fell in love with the devil by Avril Lavigne because it just fits perfectly. And Lilith by Halsey.
Mm.
Also, like it has all the vibes. But when like I have a very specific playlist for the book, and I think if you listen to each song, you really listen, you can see what scene it inspired or
Mm.
what scene it fits. Because that's kind of the way I write. Is that I'll find a song and I'm like, that could work for what I need it to. And I will listen to it on repeat, or I'll listen to the entire playlist on repeat.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Um, and so you kind of talked a little bit about earlier about how like the Mexican market is inspired by an actual market that your friend has been to. And so for this book, like you said, set in San Antonio. Have you ever been to San Antonio?
I have not, but I'm going in June.
Cool, cool. So,
And I'm
that's the
so
real life
excited.
place that you will travel for research.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I love America. Like I have been obsessed since I was really, really young. But I also like you'll be able to hear it in my voice since I started Bookstagram and I met my friends. Like my dialogue changed because I will Americanize myself to make it easier because my accent is very, very heavy. No one can understand me when I speak slang, but also like my best friends are Americans. At this stage, it's easier for me to say like mom and things like that. So I do Americanize myself. So I was like, okay, I need to go to America. Like writing the book in America was easy. I was like, I want to see these places. So I am going to New Jersey,
Cool.
DC, and then for like 2 weeks, and I'm going to like Imaginarium Book Festival with like my friend, and then I'm going to Texas to stay with like my best friend, and I'm so excited because we're gonna get to go and do like the river walk and go to the Mexican market, and we're gonna get to basically see where I based my book because I did a lot of research. So like my friends sent me pictures and I Googled and I asked a lot of questions. But it's going to be amazing to be able to see like this is where it happened.
That is so cool. That is so, so cool. So you talked about some events that you're attending. Any upcoming events that you'll be signing at or anything like that?
Yes, so on May 11th in Coventry in England, I'm going to Shenanigans Book Festival, which will be my first ever signing, and it's super, super cool. I'm so excited. And then next year I have two that I can't specify which ones they are yet, but I will say they're both in America.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm so hyped. But also obviously this year in June, I will be at Imaginarium Book Festival as a reader. But I have okayed it with the owners that if any of my readers see me and they're at the event, they can like bring me their books and I can sign it while I'm there. And also I will be leaving little goodies and stuff, little surprises all around the event. I might even do a scavenger hunt.
That is awesome. That is so,
Yeah,
so all right. So when does Branches come out? Do we have a date or a
we
general time?
do. August 16th.
August 16th. Okay, so we'll
Yes.
look forward to that book, but you can get this book, Seeds of Sour, the first one now, which you do need to read this one to read the second one.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
So they are connected. So make sure that if you haven't read this book already, you go ahead and grab it. And then you have a website where I got my
I
time.
do.
So it's
Yeah.
in your bio on your social
Yeah.
media.
And it's super easy. It's authorsarahjames.com. So
Perfect.
it's easy to remember.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. I've really enjoyed chatting with you, and I hope we can chat again soon. Can't wait for Branches.
Thank you for having me. I've had so much fun. And yes, we can definitely chat again soon because this is amazing.
Awesome. So cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.